Greens leader Adam Bandt fronted National Press Club today to unveil his party's policy directions in the run to the next federal election. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We're men in tights. We rob from the rich and give to the poor, that's right.
Whoops, that was Robin Hood Men in Tights. This is Adam Bandt.
This election, the Greens will propose a package of Robin Hood reforms. The aim is simple: to make the big corporations and billionaires pay their fair share of tax to make life better for everyone.
Joining me now is federal politics reporter Ellen Ransley, who was at National Press Club today. So, Ellen, is it just me or is the Greens leader trying to win votes by robbing from the rich to give to the poor?
That is exactly what he has outlined today. So this is, I guess, one of the first big policies that the Greens are taking to the next election, which we know is due by May. So what is underpinning this policy is a pitch to voters, I guess, especially the younger voters, harder done by the cost of living crisis. I think that the Greens are really hoping this will speak to those, the renters and, you know, the lower and lower middle class workers. The plan is to tax big corporations making quote unquote excessive profits. So that's the first part of this plan. So that would mean if a company, say Coles or Woolworths, is turning over more than $100 million in a year, any turnover after the first $100 million will be taxed at 40%. The Greens are also trying to, part of this, package includes some changes to a mining tax. There'd be a 40% tax on coal mines. And there'd also be some changes to the PRRT, the Petroleum Resources Rental Tax. So the Greens, the Parliamentary Budget Office has done the maths for the Greens, and the minor party reckons that over a decade, the culmination of these three packages would mean there's about $514 billion that the Greens want to spend on a suite of cost of living reforms, especially, and this has been their big idea for quite a number of years now, is getting dental into Medicare. So yes, robbing Peter to pay Paul is the plan, or to, robbing big companies to help people get their teeth checked, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. In this scenario, Peter is a lot richer than Paul, I think. And I think, it's a populist idea that, I think there's certainly probably a large section of the electorate that thinks, you know what, stick it to the top end of town. They make a stack of money. I don't have much money in my bank account. That sounds pretty fair. What has big business had to say in response to this Robin Hood tax?
They have panned it and lashed it and very heavily criticised it. I'll read you a couple of comments that were made. So the Minerals Council of Australia Chief Executive Tanya Constable said the proposal was quote unquote economic sabotage. The Australian Industry Group said the pitch was not only quote unquote naive populism, but an attack on the prosperity of everyday Australians who benefit from our companies doing well. The Labor government has been out this morning as well, criticising it. Finance Minister Katie Gallagher labelled it just as a thought bubble that undermined serious fiscal policy, and said, the Greens are in this position where they can throw out an idea, but they never have to implement it. Now, that may be true, but what's really important about this reform package is the Greens are in a position where they're building up the voter base. Labor's primary vote is on the decline. There's a real chance that Labor will be sent to a hung parliament, or be sent into a minority government after the next election. So what Adam Bandt was setting out today is this is really the bargaining chip that they're offering up to Labor if Labor needs the support of the Greens to form government.
Yeah, well, you took the words right out of my mouth, Ellen, because listening to Adam Bandt today, That's all that I could think about, like in the past when the Greens were, maybe just a bit of an afterthought in federal politics, they could come out and make these kind of like wild, grandiose policy statements. And, they were kind of like, they were thought bubbles. They were talking points, and you kind of consider them and go, oh, would this ever really work? And you'd probably come to the conclusion that no, it probably wouldn't, but it's a fun idea. But the possibility, and some might say probability, that Anthony Albanese will find himself in a minority government after the next election means these thought bubbles suddenly carry a lot more weight. And it could be something that is very strongly linked to Labor by the opposition. So you vote for Albo and you're getting all of Adam Bandt's crazy ideas. I guess, how far do you think the government is going to go to try and distance itself from what Adam Bandt is doing?
Well, I mean, we had Richard Marles, he's acting Prime Minister at the moment while Anthony Albanese is overseas. He came out this morning, he said the proposal was unrealistic and tried to downplay the prospect of doing a deal with the Greens, saying, Labor's seeking a mandate to govern in another term in its own right. But I think as the months drag on before the next election, I think Labor will need to do a lot of soul searching, because there is a real risk that they are losing votes to the Greens, and the Greens, really believe that they're going to pick up a few more seats in the next election. So, I mean, if Labor doesn't form a majority government and it doesn't want to do a deal with the Greens, it would then need to look at, independent crossbenchers, say. I think we'll see a bit more of Anthony Albanese. I would expect that the coalition will begin to question the government in the question time in the next couple of weeks. And we've seen it happen in the past. Peter Dutton has called on Anthony Albanese to rule out doing a deal with the Greens. In the past, that's been on the basis of comments the Greens have made about Israel and Palestine. But I think we'll see the coalition try to wedge Labor on this in the weeks and months ahead, because I think everybody knows that it's, as you say, a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, indeed. And I think Anthony Albanese will be very reluctant to pull on the tights and play Robin Hood with Adam Bandt. Federal politics reporter Ellen Ransley, great to have you back on the Nightly Five.
Thanks, Ben.